Good evening, I'm Evelyn Leung in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Police hunt for a prisoner who escaped through a washroom at the Queen Mary Hospital. A coach accused of molesting an athlete 8 years ago is found not guilty of sexual assault. And the city's economy grew by 2.9% from a year earlier, while unemployment remains steady at a 20-year low. First up tonight, a citywide manhunt is now underway after a prisoner escaped from Queen Mary Hospital this morning. Leon Lee was arrested at the Hong Kong airport on Wednesday on suspicion of using a fake Hong Kong ID 3 years ago. He was released on bail and was required to report to the police. But Lee failed to do so and had been wanted by the authorities. While being detained by the police, Lee claimed to be unwell and was sent to Queen Mary Hospital yesterday. At around 8:30 this morning, it's believed that he escaped through the toilet ceiling in the hospital. A coach who was accused of sexually assaulting a Hong Kong athlete 8 years ago has been acquitted. Known to the public only as WH, the 77-year-old had faced 1 count of indecent assault. That was cleared after a judge at the Fanling Magistracy said there was reasonable doubt in the evidence that was provided. While the magistrate praised the victim, identified only as X, for coming forward, he said the court was not a platform to push for social movements. The case was thrust into the spotlight on the back of the Me Too movement that took the world by storm last year. The U.S. Consul General in Hong Kong has refused to comment on whether Washington will be treating Hong Kong as just another mainland city. This comes following a recommendation in a U.S. congressional report. Speaking to the media, Kirk Tong simply said the U.S. is looking forward to discussing with Hong Kong a range of policies with a focus on the one country, two systems policy. In a report released yesterday, the United States-China Economic and Security Review Commission cited Beijing's encroachment in suggestions that the White House should consider scrapping Hong Kong's special trade status. Tong today stressed the importance of the policy.
To think about it, it's an extraordinarily important framework for the viability and competitiveness of Hong Kong and also U.S. interests in Hong Kong, as well as the benefit that the rest of China receives from Hong Kong. So I think that we'll continue to have lots of conversations on that.
Meanwhile, there's mounting pressure on the government to secure Hong Kong's trade status, especially from the business sector. Lydia Song tells us more.
More calls on Carrie Lam's administration to defuse a potential trade crisis. On a Now TV program, business representatives once again urged the government to send a delegation to Washington as soon as possible.
It's not up to us to lobby with the U.S. government. This is 100% something that needs to be handled by the SAR government. It can't just be all talk, otherwise Hong Kong would really suffer.
This week, a report by the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission called on the White House to review the policy of treating Hong Kong and China as separate customs areas, citing declining freedom here. The chief executive has since hit back at the report, saying it's a false accusation and accused the commission of judging Hong Kong's relationship with the central government with double standards. Lam also lashed out at pro-democracy politicians. They want her to make a pledge to the U.S. that one country, two systems wouldn't be further damaged.
Even if I didn't say so and instead said China is really kind to us, do you think people would believe me? It doesn't help. Washington's assessment of the situation is very comprehensive. No matter it's from the agents or publicly available material, they have collected a lot of information.
Members of the public who phoned into the program also expressed huge concerns over the threats. One said that for Hong Kong, it's a matter of life and death.
Hong Kong and Macau's special statuses and contributions to the country's development are fully recognized by President Xi Jinping. That's according to Beijing's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Chief Zhang Xiaoming. In an interview with state broadcaster CCTV, he said the president's remarks earlier this week could allay any concerns that the two SARs are being marginalized. Zhang also said it's very encouraging for Xi to say the two cities are special and irreplaceable. 3 buildings at the University of Hong Kong have been listed as declared monuments, which means the government has the power to stop owners from redeveloping them. The protected structures are Fung Ping Shan Building, Elliott Hall, and May Hall. Fung Ping Shan Building was built in 1932 and was used to store private and government collections during the Second World War. Elliott Hall, built in 1914, was used as a relief wing for Queen Mary Hospital during the Second World War and now houses the university's journalism school. The May Hall next door, meanwhile, was named after the then governor, Francis Henry May, and is almost identical in design as Elliott Hall. It was the school's 3rd residential hall and is now used as administrative offices. Well, the government is standing firm over its decision to adjust tunnel fees, including increasing the prices of 2 tunnels. Speaking to lawmakers today, the Transport and Housing Chief said other adjustment proposals just won't help ease congestion in the city. The proposal includes hiking up the fares for Cross Harbour Tunnel and the Eastern Harbour Tunnel to $40. This, while that of Western Harbour will be lowered to $50. But lawmakers were not happy to hear that.
The Transport and Housing Bureau's passenger number estimates for the high-speed railway and the Megabridge project have been inaccurate. How can we trust that the calculations for the tunnel proposal are correct?
Under a normal market mechanism, if the usage of the Western Tunnel is low, then the tunnel operator should lower prices itself. It should not be the case of the government using public funds to subsidise the operator in lowering prices.
Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Starting off with some data out of Hong Kong, the city's economy grew solidly by 2.9% in the 3rd quarter of 2018, compared with a year earlier. While marking the 8th consecutive quarter of above-trend growth, it eased from the 3.5% growth in the 2nd quarter. This figure also marks a notable slowdown from the 4.6% growth in the 1st quarter, which was the city's strongest performance in nearly 7 years. The labor market, meanwhile, remained tight in the 3rd quarter. The seasonally adjusted unemployment rate stayed unchanged at a 20-year low of 2.8%. Let's now take a look at equity markets here and across the border. The Hang Seng Index went up 0.3% to close at 26,183 points. Energy firms were supported by another lift in oil prices. The Shanghai Composite rose 0.4% to 2,679 points. The index was raised higher after comments from the central bank eased pressure to lend. Speculation is growing that OPEC may cut oil supply in the face of a slump in crude prices. And Reuters sources say Russia wants to stay out of any oil production cuts touted in an OPEC-led supply pact. As David Pollard reports, it could weigh on sentiment in markets already facing record supply levels.
As crude prices slip downwards, speculation has been on the up that OPEC might cut supply, just as it did in early 2017, along with top producer Russia. Only this time, Russia may not be so keen to join further curbs, Russian sources tell Reuters. Cue President Putin, who would not confirm Moscow's intentions either way, but did choose his words carefully when he spoke at the ASEAN summit.
I think that today's price is not stable. It might rise. As you know, it's related to various factors. By the way, we discussed it with President Trump in Paris. At least we touched upon this topic.
That in itself might come as a surprise to Saudi Arabia. It's reportedly pushing for a 1.4 million barrels a day cut. That's around 1.5% of global output. The US president wanted lower prices before midterm elections earlier this month. Sources tell Reuters the Saudis are furious at Trump after they agreed to raise production to offset sanctions imposed on Iran, only for the US to then waive those sanctions on oil. The problem producers face now, record levels of supply amid slowing demand.
It does seem quite likely that OPEC will act accordingly. They don't want to see the oil market going back to the situation that we saw a couple of years ago when oil prices at one stage appeared to be more or less in free fall.
Prices rose on Thursday, edging up just to stabilise after a nearly 7% loss over the previous 3 days. US crude was trading at around $56 a barrel, compared to the 90 or above some analysts were forecasting just last month.
The United States imposed economic sanctions on 17 Saudi officials for their role in the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This is the first economic penalty from the Trump administration over the brutal murder of the Washington Post columnist in October. Among those sanctioned were former top aide to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, as well as a Saudi consul general. The sanctions don't target the Riyadh government, a key U.S. economic ally. The family of a passenger killed when a Lion Air flight crashed into the sea near Indonesia are suing Boeing for its alleged unsafe design. The lawsuit accuses the U.S. aircraft manufacturer of failing to inform pilots and airlines of its new safety feature that can cause the 737 MAX 8 aircraft to push the nose down unexpectedly. The lawsuit was filed at the Boeing headquarters in Illinois by the father of Rio Nanda Pratama, who was flying to Indonesia to get married when the plane went down. Lion Air Flight 610 crashed shortly after takeoff from Jakarta, killing all 189 people on board. Stay with us, there's plenty more to come on the show. Uncertainty looms as British Prime Minister Theresa May clings to plans over the UK's controversial exit from the EU. We go to our correspondent in London for more on this after the break.
Welcome to Jazz at Metropolis, a declaration of love to jazz music. Watch live performances from international, up-and-coming and established award-winning jazz musicians. Interview with the leading lights of the genre. Delve into the vaults of jazz history. Take a peek behind the scenes of show business. End your weekend on a high note with a sensational night of great jazz at Theatre 96. Jazz at Metropolis, Sunday night at 9:30 on View TV 6. Six big leagues all in one place, bringing you 1,600 matches live, only on Now TV. Other pay-TV customers subscribing to Super Sports Pack can enjoy 4-month monthly fee waiver and get the new beIN Sports Plus pack at $48 a month to watch Champions League and Europa League, plus a Premier League gift set for free. Call our hotline for details. Created by the legendary chef Gordon Ramsay. 9 home cooks sharpen their knives, tie their aprons and battle it out. Cookery combat under extreme pressure. Amateur cooks go through rigorous challenges. Bust a gut to impress celebrity chefs from around the world.
Good luck.
Who can stand the heat of the kitchen? Who can take home a cash prize and earn the coveted title of Culinary Genius? Sunday night at 8 on View TV 6.
Mom, I don't know what you're dying of, but I hope it's slow and painful.
One of the most watched sitcoms on broadcast television in the U.S. Comedy of a loving but dysfunctional family.
She's not your mother. You have a super day.
Exceptional mix of laughs and lumps in the throat.
If I need an organ, I'll get it from you.
My liver might not be an upgrade.
Mom, Season 3. Monday night at 9:30 on View TV 6. And they lived happily ever after.
Well, she was in love. Big boats, big houses, big cars.
Is this for real?
I have no doubts that he physically abused her.
I can't believe you're making such a big deal.
Check it out. Just try it.
When love turns sour.
Gary! Don't ever touch me again.
A woman can do the unthinkable. Wives with Knives, Tuesday night at 8:30 on View TV 6. Wrestling fever explodes on ViewTV6 as we bring you action from the WWE Raw. Catch the stars, the drama, the thrills and the spills.
What is going on?
A new episode every week. The WWE Raw. Tonight at 12 midnight on Channel 96 ViewTV6.
Welcome back. To the UK now, where Prime Minister Theresa May has vowed to fight for her Brexit deal with the EU. That's despite a string of key ministers stepping down, putting her strategy and job in jeopardy. The resignations, including Brexit Minister Dominic Raab, came just hours after May had claimed backing for a draft divorce deal. The political turmoil has raised the risk of it being rejected in Parliament and that Britain could leave the EU without a safety net. But speaking at a news conference at Number 10, May underlined her determination to carry on.
My approach throughout has been to put the national interest first, not a partisan interest, and certainly not my own political interest. I do not judge harshly those of my colleagues who seek to do the same, but who reach a different conclusion. They must do what they believe to be right, just as I do. I'm sorry that they've chosen to leave the government, and I thank them for their service. But I believe with every fibre of my being that the course I have set out is the right one for our country and all our people.
Well, for more on those developments, let's now cross over to our correspondent at Westminster, Jess Omery. So, Jess, another tumultuous day in Westminster. What's the latest?
Well, as you say, tumultuous day, feverish almost here in Westminster. More backlash for the Prime Minister over her Brexit deal, more letters of no confidence, but some respite. Leading Brexiteer Michael Gove has said he will not be resigning from his position in the Cabinet. He was reportedly yesterday offered the position of Brexit Secretary. He didn't take it, leading to speculation he would have to resign completely. He reportedly didn't take that position unless he could go to Brussels and renegotiate the deal. Theresa May saying that's not an option. She's essentially saying it's my way or the highway. This deal, no deal, or no Brexit. That sentiment is being echoed by leaders in the EU. Angela Merkel saying much the same thing. This 585-page document is the agreement and it's the only one you're going to get.
Well, just the Prime Minister spoke to the British public this morning after a day of backlash from within her own government and a grilling in Parliament. Did she make any concessions?
She didn't make any concessions, but what she was really trying to do is sell this agreement to the public. That's what she's focusing on now, making ordinary people understand in ordinary terms this very complicated agreement that she has made with the EU, and that's what she's trying to focus on. She took calls from the British public and answered questions about the NHS funding. There was a prominent Leave campaign promise that the NHS would get extra money, a £350 million a week extra if the UK left the EU. That, of course, was put under there was a lot of speculation about whether that's true. She says, of course, actually, she's saying, yes, that the NHS will get extra money. She also denied a split with the DUP, and she sort of faced questions about a no-deal Brexit. She was saying that this fear about medicines coming in isn't what she wants to focus on. She said herself she gets medicines from the EU. She takes insulin, which comes from Denmark. The health minister said there's a fear, actually, that these medicines might not make it if there's a no-deal Brexit, and people's lives could be in danger. That's not what she wants to focus on. She doesn't want to focus on no deal. She wants to focus on her deal, and that's what she'll be emphasising all this weekend as much as she can.
Well, thank you very much, Jess, for that update. Jess Omery there for us at Westminster. Back in Asia, North Korea has decided to deport a U.S. citizen detained since October. State news agency KCNA identified him as Bruce Byron Lawrence. Earlier, our Seoul correspondent Joseph Kim gave us more details on Lawrence.
Yes, as you mentioned, North Korean state media has reported that they are going to deport an American citizen. Now, it was reported from the media that he claimed to be under the control of the CIA. Now, North Korea hasn't confirmed his identity, but a man with a similar name was deported from South Korea after he was caught wandering the border between the North and South. Now, all of this comes amid a standstill between security and denuclearization talks between the United States and North Korea. But we have heard from the Trump administration, who has previously hailed North Korea as giving concessions for releasing prisoners. So this may also be an indicator that North Korea is trying to get back on the dialogue table with the United States, as they've currently have been trying to get back to talks on trying to get a peace treaty.
President Xi Jinping landed in Papua New Guinea ahead of an Asia-Pacific summit there this weekend. Xi will be meeting with leaders from a number of Polynesian countries as part of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. And while the focus of those talks is likely going to be Chinese investment in the region, the country's growing presence is being closely watched by neighboring Australia. China's plans of bankrolling the development of a strategic port in the country is being seen as the latest push to bolster its strength in the South Pacific.
We're willing to enhance mutual trust, extend exchanges, strengthen cooperation, and jointly plan and build a path of prosperity, a path of opening up, and a path of friendship with Papua New Guinea.
More than 600 people are believed to be missing in California, where a series of deadly wildfires continue to wreak destruction on the state. The death toll there has already climbed to at least 63. And as Eve Johnson reports, pressure is mounting on a utilities company, which may have been responsible for the fires.
More than 600 people are missing in the rubble and ash left by California's deadly Camp Fire. Officials raising the figure on Thursday night as firefighters continue to battle the flames a week after the fire started. Dozens of people have been confirmed dead, making it the most lethal wildfire in California history. The high death toll blamed on the fire's staggering speed, fueled by dried scrub and trees as it raced through Paradise, a town of 27,000. Photographer Terry Sylvester met with some of the survivors.
I visited Red Cross evacuation centers in Chico and Oroville, and there are boards outside of them that are plastered with photos and names of many people who may still be missing. While I was at the evacuation center at the neighborhood church in Chico, Lane and Julie Walker stopped by to scan the lists of the missing. They live in Magalia, and their house was destroyed by the fire. They said they escaped by taking to back roads in their Jeep. As they looked at the list of missing people, Julie teared up. She said she recognized many names. She said it felt like she was looking at their whole community.
Meanwhile, pressure is mounting on the utilities company, which may have been responsible for starting the blaze. Pacific Gas and Electric says it was experiencing problems with transmission lines in the area around the time the fire broke out. Things were looking shaky for the company earlier this week after reports that it could be on the hook for as much as $15 billion in liability. PG&E had separately warned it might not have enough insurance to cover liability. But on Thursday, shares in the company surged 40% in after-hours trade, following a Bloomberg report that regulators do not want it to go bankrupt. Investigators still haven't confirmed the cause of the fire, and although it continues to burn, officials say it's now about 40% contained.
Time now for sports. Tennis first, and Roger Federer has marched into the semi-finals at the ATP Finals after beating South Africa's Kevin Anderson 6-4, 6-3 and topping his group. The record six-time champion turned on the style to avenge this year's shock Wimbledon quarter-final defeat by Anderson. Federer had a slow start to the week when he lost to Kei Nishikori in the opener, but a straight sets victory against Dominic Thiem on Tuesday kept his hopes alive. This was great is likely to avoid world number one Novak Djokovic in Saturday's last four and back on track for a 100th title.
I think Thiem winning maybe helped me, of course, to maybe come into this match a bit more relaxed. But for me, I've always wanted to go out with a bang today and win the match. If I go through, great. If I don't, well, I don't deserve to be through, and it's okay too. So I'm happy I'm still alive, and I hope I can play a good match on the day after tomorrow. I'm not sure when I'm playing.
In football, France visit the Netherlands in the Nations League tonight, but the world champions are suffering injury blows with several star players out. Midfielder Paul Pogba, forwards Anthony Martial and Alexander Lacazette, and defender Benjamin Mendy will miss the game. France won their home match against the Dutch 2-1 and topped their group with 7 points after 2 games. A draw would see them through to the next stage, but coach Didier Deschamps is aiming for all 3 points. Elsewhere, England celebrated Wayne Rooney's final international appearance with a 3-0 friendly win over the United States at Wembley. Their all-time top scorer did not have a major impact on his final international game after coming on in the 58th minute. He did force goalkeeper Brad Guzan into a save in stoppage time. England went 2-0 up thanks to excellent first-half strikes from Jesse Lingard and Trent Alexander-Arnold with his first goal for his country. And Callum Wilson made it 3-0 in the 77th minute to complete a fine night for the debut starters. And that's it for now. Make sure you do join us tomorrow night for all the stories that are shaping your world. I'm Evelina Lang, and this is BTV News.
Coming up next, WWE Raw.
We enrage. We envy, we resent, we dislike.
We breathe, we laugh, we cry, we live.
We disappoint, we frustrate, we bore, we suffer.
We fear, we doubt, we defeat, we empower.
We communicate.
We talk.
We listen.
We learn.
We care. Jazzing up.
Touching hearts.
Paying attention.
Seemingly distant.
Deeply connected.
I had colors of his club on my attire tonight, so I'm sure he was happy to see that. No, it's great to have a big football star, sports star like him courtside watching tennis. He used to come and watch a lot in Madrid. Rafa, of course, Roger, myself, and he's a fan of tennis, and it's really nice because he's one of the biggest sports stars in the last decade, and it's great for our sport to have him there. I saw he was there with his family. Didn't get a chance to see him after the match, but hopefully I'll have that chance maybe later this week.
The world's most popular basketball league, NBA, explodes courtside. View TV brings you a showcase match live every week with the best high-flying slam dunk action.
Back to Thompson, corner three. Go!